Good afternoon, family and friends. Yes, it is me. I am finally back on. I am finally coming back into myself. I am just very grateful to be here in the land of the living, clothed in my right mind and with the activities of my limbs. For those of you who don't know, for the last couple of months, 2.5 months, I had been dealing with an issue where I was unable to walk, unable to bear weight on my right leg, and I was in excruciating pain. The doctors were telling me it was this one thing, but yet the remedies that or the medication that they were trying to give me or were giving me wasn't helping, wasn't giving me any relief. And finally, I had to say, speak up because I try to, let the medical team do what they need to do. But finally, as a big advocate for myself, I had to speak up and say, hey, we need to do something else because we need to get to the root of the problem and why this has happened to me. So I requested them to do an MRI. And in doing so, we discovered that the degenerative disc that I have from an old injury that I sustained years ago earlier in my career, it had flared up. I had bulging discs, a herniated disc, and all of this was sitting on my nerve, which in turn was causing all the pain, which is in turn causing me not to be able to walk. And so finally, once we got that discovered, we were able to deal with my pain in a different way that started helping me. So truly, this was such an experience for me to be in this type of pain, which lasted 47 days straight. And I'm talking excruciating pain. Every time they asked me what my pain was like, I told them it was a 20 out of 10. And so it was something that I would never, ever want to go through again, which in turn made me make some lifestyle changes, changes in my posture, changes in the way that I stand and the way that I sit, even down to my diet. Making sure that I don't consume so much of processed food or any kind of food or even meats that will cause a lot of inflammation to build up within my system, because in turn that can affect my L4 to L5 and cause it to get inflamed again. So I learned a lot about my body again through this process and was reminded of some things that I had even also learned in nursing school, to why this is happening or why this will happen. And so, and in turn, made a true believer out of me that when you're older that you get, you must take care of yourself. You must make adjustments and changes to accommodate your health if you want to live a good and fruitful and a life with mobility. Because I don't know about you, but I've learned one thing about me: I don't like being immobile. So and many of you all know that I'm a walker. I've been a walker for over 20 years, and I at one point couldn't even walk from my bed to the dresser or get out the bed. And so that was quite habilitating to me. And again, just an experience that I wouldn't wish on no one, and one that I tend not to ever experience again if I can help prevent it. Because if you know anything about me, I'm about prevention. At this point in life, I am just grateful that this is the only thing that I have to deal with. I'm gonna face it head on and deal with it, so I make sure it doesn't affect me moving forward. And then I want to say thank you for each and every one of you who reached out to me, who texted me, who DM'd me, or just said kind words on my book. I truly appreciate it. I realize I do have a community that love me, and I love each and every one of you all. And I thank you all for praying with me and for me. I thank, all of those who extended themselves to want to come over. I mean, I'm so grateful, and I'm so grateful that people do love me, and I love you all, because I had people who offered to come over and clean my home. And if you know me, I literally hadn't cleaned my home in in 2 months, and that is not like me. It's a every week thing because Odessa installed that in us when we was young, that, you know, on Saturdays it was clean up day. And so I've always kept that habit of always cleaning my home. People offer to cook meals and bring them over to me. People said, wherever, you know, whatever your favorite restaurant, I'll go get your food out, or I'll have it sent to you. Thank you. Thank you, because that meant a lot to me, because I couldn't move. I couldn't cook. I just, the last couple of weeks, I've just been able to stand in the kitchen long enough to cook. So I'm just in the process of recovery, and I'm very grateful for each and every one of you all and your prayers. I am about 95% back to what I need to be. And as many of you know, as I am a walker, and I'm now, and I, you know, usually when the weather is good, I can walk. I walk at least 2 to 4 miles, and just over the last couple of days, I've been taking Oliver out, and I've been able to walk a quarter of a mile. So I'm building my strength back up, and I'm grateful and glad about that, because I didn't know where this incident was going to lead me, or what it was going to lead me without. And I'm just grateful that I'm getting back to myself. And Oliver is grateful too, because he when I took him out, he took off. And so he's grateful that we're getting back to our routine. So please forgive me. This video will be a little bit long because I have a beautiful story to tell. I want to talk about the story of Job and his experience. This is what the Lord has placed in my spirit. So please watch this video in its entirety. Again, this will be a little bit long, but y'all know I like to keep it to about 5 or less than 10 minutes long. But this one will be a little lengthy. So just bear with me, because I got a beautiful story to tell along with my testimony. So we're going to talk about Job. Job is a man that God considered to be perfect. He was upright, he feared the Lord, and he shunned all presence of evil. And because he did that, Satan came along and wanted to test him. And what had happened is, at a particular time every year, or at some point in time, men would come before the Lord, or come before the presence of the Lord, to just see who they are and where they made of. At least that's what the Bible says, that they would come into the presence of the Lord to present themselves. And so Satan also would come along, and the Lord said, hey, what you doing here? He's like, I came to, I'm going back and forth to and fro in the earth. And the Bible tells us that he does that because he goes back and forth in between the earth to see who he can devour. So, the Lord asked him, he said, well, had you considered my servant Job? And the Satan answered him and said, yeah, but you got, he got all these possessions and all of this, he ain't gonna curse you. But if you allow me, or if I take this away, or we take this away, I'm surely he's going to curse you. And so the testing begins, and Job went through a series of processes after being tested from Satan. And he wasn't tested just once, he was tested twice. His first test was his losses. He lost his possessions. He lost his livestock, his servants, and his children were killed. He had 10 children, 7 sons and 3 daughters. And in that loss, Satan had known for sure that Job was going to turn his back on the Lord, or curse the Lord. But Job spoke this thing to him. He spoke this thing out. He said, naked I came out of my mother's womb, and naked I shall return. The Lord takes away, for the Lord gives and the Lord takes away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. So even though Job had everything taken from him, he recognized that he came into this world with nothing, and he surely is going to leave this world with nothing. But blessed be the name of the Lord, because he gives and he takes away. So he recognized that, hey, no matter what I'm going through, the Lord still he blesses, he gives and he takes. So who am I to curse the Lord? So he still blessed him. So Job went away defeated. But he came back again when it was the time for them to present themselves unto the Lord again. And he said, and the Lord asked him again, hey, are you still considering my servant Job? Well, yeah, but he got all this good health. If you just take that hedge off from around him, and allow me to afflict his body, I'm surely he's going to curse you then, or he's going to turn his back on you. So the Lord gave him permission once again. He said, yeah. He said, go ahead, touch him. He said, but do not take his life. That's the only thing that he did not have permission to do. So here it is. This is Job's second loss. And so Job is afflicted with boils. And if you know anything about boils, they're big old blisters with bacteria that appears on the body. Job was afflicted with this from the bottom of his sole of his feet to the crown of his head. So he had all these boils all over his body. He was in some pain with this. And so again, he was afflicted. His wife is sitting here watching this go on. And even his wife, when he watching all this calamity happening to Job, she said, hey, do you still retain your integrity? She told him, she said, you need to curse God and die. We talk about her in a sense, in a way where, she just wasn't a supportive wife. But the reality of this is that she was experiencing this loss as well. And then she's seeing her husband go through all this hardship. And although they weren't the wisest things words to say to her husband. Matter of fact, Job said, you are foolish. He was like, are we not going to only accept the good and not the evil from the Lord? And but she was feeling hopeless in this situation. She didn't have the relationship to the degree that Job had with the Lord. So she was taking a major loss here too, because she had lost her her children. She had lost her possessions and her well-being as well. And so it's not that I'm giving an excuse, but for her. But hey, this is why we as women need to stay prayed up for our husbands and our men, to make sure that we're speaking life into them. But he quickly corrected her, and I found it strange because after this, she's no more mentioned in the scriptures. And the reason why I'm saying that, because when I get to the end of this story, we'll talk about Job and what happens. And I got a question about that wife. But in all of that, he says this. He says, in all this, Job did not sin with his lips against God. And so here he is, he's sitting with these painful boils. He rips his garments because he lost his children. And the thing about it is, when the servants were coming back, the messengers were coming back to him talking about, your livestock is gone and your maid servants is gone. It wasn't until Job lost his children where he ripped his clothes and he sat there in ashes and, before the Lord. And then he got afflicted with these boils and these painful boils, and and from the research that I read upon these, they're very painful when they're coming in, but they're not mature until they fill up with the fluid. So Job had to wait till these boils filled up with fluid before he can take this particular apparatus, I'm gonna call it, because that's what we would call it in the medical field, which is called a potsherd. Which is a piece of ceramic, to where he had to scrape the boils off of his skin. So can you imagine that he's got all of this, or all of these lesions over or boils over his body, and now in order for him to heal and remove let the bacteria seep out, he has to scrape his skin to get this off. So he was in some excruciating pain. And according to what I read, I don't know how long Job was in pain, but I know that days had passed. It doesn't really give an account of how many days, or maybe I just didn't read. I read it and just didn't give an account of it, but I can't recall it. And so at this time, he's dealing with these painful boils, and he has no anesthesia, no antibiotics, and the only way he's gonna heal is to wait for them to dry up, and so they can heal and scab over. And so then he's going through a loss. He's going through sickness. And then here comes Job's three friends. He has three friends that come from afar because they have heard all of the misfortune that has happened to Job. And so they come to support him. And as they're coming up on Job, as he's sitting amongst these ashes, they see this person that they don't even recognize. And because he was so unrecognizable, these three friends sat with Job for 3 days before they even spoke a word. They mourned with him for 3 days. They cried with him because of what they had saw that what their friend had came to. Could you imagine, one of your, walking up one of your friends and seeing what they're going through and not be able to recognize them and not, be able to do anything to comfort them. And all they could do was, which was probably the only wise thing that they did the time that they was with Job, was sat with him for 3 days and not said a word. Because after the 3 days, these three friends started pretty much scrutinizing Job, accusing Job of sin, accusing Job of what he did wrong and why God is punishing him and allowing him to go through this. They criticize him. They accuse him of sinning, mess with his integrity. They even question his faith, all through these particular chapters that I had read. And even Job himself questioned his own existence. He had said at one point, it's better that he had not been born because of what he was going through. And even in that agony, that mental and physical pain that Job was experiencing, because I looked up the word agony, and agony means the greatest pain experience. And that's when you're experiencing mental and physical pain to where you are can't function. You really probably wish that you had not been born. And I have to attest to this because out of the 47 days that I was going through that excruciating pain, you got to know my mental was messed with. And I mean, even to the point, and I'm not ashamed to say, I lost it. I lost my composure. It was 2 times throughout this ordeal that I lost my composure. And one time I was alone, and I had forgotten about what Job had said, because I didn't read this until after I came through my situation, because that's what God had instructed me. But I remember I was downstairs on my couch and I was like, man, what did I do? What's going on? I mean, I'm doing my best to serve you. I've been obedient. And I was just losing it. And I'm like, and then I started recalling all of the things that I had been through in life that had been a hardship for me. And I can tell that I probably almost went into a depression. And then the second time I lost it, I was just in so much pain and that I couldn't move. I couldn't go out to go get any pain medicine because I just couldn't. I just didn't have the ability to, and I couldn't do nothing but sit in my living room and cry and cry and cry and cry and rock and I did call on a couple of people to come and help, and I just thank God that I have people that will come to me and help me, because they know I would do the same for them without a shadow of a doubt. But I could attest, and I could understand what Job was going through. And here it is. He had lost his children. He had lost his possession. He didn't feel like he had the support from his wife, and his friends were belittling him. So, yes, he was going through, and trust me, I understand that, because, and even though I was going through, I am the type of person that when I am going through, because I don't do well on pain meds, and I don't do well with pain. I just don't. And, but I was tolerating this, and I really didn't want to see or have anyone to see me in this condition, because I couldn't talk, I couldn't entertain. Me and pain meds don't get along. I am not myself. I was full of anxiety. I was in a place where I was almost hitting depression. And I just, and although I do believe in prayer and all of that, sometimes when you're going through a process, you need to, I'm just the type of person, I have to be by myself, and I have to exclude myself from others. And even I was like that about my patients, especially when I worked in the ICU, because I understood that if they were allowed to get the rest that they needed, that their healing, it would help in their healing. So I would tell the family, yeah, come and see them for a certain amount of time. But, at a certain point, I'm going to ask you to exit the room. And not because you can't, I'm not doing anything, whatever. I want you in here if you're going to, allow me to help promote healing for your loved one, because sometimes family members, they want to come in and they see their family member, especially if their family member is the strong one or the pillar of the family, they want to continue to talk to them and touch on them. And, and sometimes that raises people's blood pressures, or it causes agitation to the patients. And so it doesn't allow them to heal properly. So again, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to just heal. I wanted to just be in a place, in a space where I didn't have much going on, so I could properly rest and give my body and my mind the attention that it needed, so I can promote healing. And so anyway, and then others are different. Others want people around them, and that's fine too. There's no right or wrong way. It's just who you are and how you deal and how you cope. So anyway, Job got these friends around him, and we always talk about Job and these 3 friends. But I want to bring to your attention, there was a 4th one there as well. But he was a younger guy. He was young, and he was sitting there for these last few days listening to all what they were saying. And he said, I've been sitting here. I'm the youngest, so I've kept quiet, because what do I know? I'm sitting amongst men who are of elder, and you are wise. He was like, but I got to say this. What's coming out of y'all mouths is foolish. It's foolish. And here it is. All the time I've ever heard Job being preached and about his friends, they never talk too much about this 4th one, this young guy. And he brings it to their attention. He was like, I was waiting to hear something wise, but all I've heard was foolishness and self-righteousness. Y'all talking about and questioning God about what this is and what it is and what isn't. And he was like, and and in your questioning God, he replies, he says that they knew what was in the mind of God, or is talking like they knew what was in the mind of God, but everything that they were saying was falsehood. Because as we know, yes, tests, trials will come, and some tests and trials come from the enemy, some do come from the Lord. And we have to recognize that God does allow good and evil to come into our lives. And it's, what are we going to do with it? What are we going to do? We know what we're going to do with the good, but what you going to do with that evil? And I know there's plenty of times that, I blamed it on the devil. I blamed it on God, and I questioned things, and, but reading Job gave me a different perspective. And in this perspective, I've learned that it's true what the Bible says. Find it not strange when fiery trials come to test you, because we're going to have to see what we made of. If you remember any time before the last 3 months when I was talking about building. I was talking about building the spirit man. And in that, I understood now why I was going through, or had to go through what I was going through. I have been to a point where I had, earlier in my life, I felt spiritual pain or mental pain. And I remember sitting in, this is when I was at my first church, I remember sitting in the pews, and because of what I was going through mentally, because the weight of the world it was upon my shoulders. I'm not ashamed to say. And I remember sitting in there because it was early in my walk with the Lord. And I had some questioning. I'm like, hey, can you really heal me? I got all these folks running around, talking about God can heal. Can you heal what's in me? And I will say that, years later, because it took some time, because I had to deal with a lot of mental things that I had been through, betrayal, shame, guilt, all of these things that I had to, deal with and try to understand. Because again, I wasn't a person who grew up in church. I didn't start going to church till I was 22 years old. So I didn't have all of that. And I just remember the Lord telling me, yes, I can heal. And I remember reading the scripture that a wounded spirit, who could bear? And I remember I had a wounded spirit, and it was very unbearable. But I thank God for healing, because he healed me in that. And then here I had to go through this physical aspect, because I have never been through anything like this. I've been through childbearing, and I had both of my children natural. I've even had a couple of surgeries, but the pain was not like this pain. This pain, I mean, it was really unbelievable. I mean, it was really debilitating. I cannot express that enough, because like I said, I never in my life had experienced that. So I do know God is a healer. And I'm here to say that all the medication that they were trying to give me, that wasn't helping me. It was barely taking the edge off. And one night I knew I had took enough medication that I could probably knock 2 horses down. And I'm not ashamed to say that I prayed. I said, Lord, I know that, because I needed to get some rest, because when you're in such a lot of pain and you're not able to rest, you can't heal. And this was like my 3rd or 4th day where I couldn't sleep. And even if I was sleeping, it was no more than an hour or two. And I couldn't sleep in my bed. I had to sleep on the floor. I had to sleep on the couch, in any place that can, where I could get comfortable. But it was mostly on the floor or on the couch. And this one particular night, I'm like, I'm finna get me some sleep, because I could feel myself slipping mentally. And I took some medication, and I said, Lord, I'm right with you. So if I don't wake up in the morning, I'm all right. And that's just how bad it got for me. That where I said, hey, if you take me because of this medication, I'm all right. But lo and behold, he woke me up. So I'm very, very grateful. I'm still here in the land of the living. So even after all of this and this questioning and this young person bringing it to Job and his friends' attention, God began to speak to Job. At this point, he began to put his two cents in, and he rebuked Job. He says, and now I'm going to question you, and Job, I will await your answer. So the Lord began to talk about all these things that he has created in the earth, all these particular animals that he had created, and these sea creatures that he had created. And in this, he was asking Job, if you can tell me how these were created and how they function and how this and that, he was like, then I will listen to you. He was like, but you can't tell me, because you didn't create this. You didn't create these things. He finally told him, the earth is mine and the fullness thereof. I created everything in the earth. I know how it functions, just like I created you. And that's what I want to drive home a little bit here, where we always, in that conversation, because even I'm guilty of it at times, always trying to figure out and tell you what God is and what God ain't. We are not the creator. And here it is, when I was going through and I was sort of coming out of it, and I said, well, I said, because I'm a prevention person. I'm trying not to, take medications. I'm not trying to be on blood pressure medications or having to give myself diabetes shots. So what do I need to do? And he told me, you got to get to the root of the problem. You can't just stay surface and, the problem, because what you keep doing, or what will keep happening, you will keep just ripping the Band-Aid off of it. You got to get down to the root of it. And I said, well, Lord, you created this body. So I need you to help me to understand it. So I'm going to get there. So here it is. Job repented, because I was getting ahead of myself. But here it is, after having this discussion and hearing what the Lord had to say, Job repented. He said, I have spoken things I knew not, just like many of us do. Things too wonderful for me that I knew not. And he said, but here it is. I have also heard of thee with the hearing of my ears. He said, but now I see thee. And I will tell you this. Now I see the Lord. Now I know that he's a healer. Now I know he's a provider. Now I know he is a deliverer. Now I know he is a restorer. Yes, because I've experienced it for myself. It is nothing no one can tell me about the Lord that I haven't read that he won't do for me. Because I see the goodness. I have tasted and seen that the Lord is good. Because see, it ain't sometimes until you go through, until you get to really know who he is, until he allowed himself to be seen. The Bible tells us to search the scriptures. And I had to get in here and search for him. I had to tell him, hey, you created. Help me understand what's going on with me and what I need to do. So the Lord began to restore Job. And right when he was beginning, he restored Job. And after he rebuked him, God addressed Job's friends. And he said, I am against thee because you have not spoken what was right concerning me. Not like Job did. Because even though Job spoke badly of himself, he never spoke bad of God. He just wished that God had not created him. But he did say, although you slay me, yet will I trust him. How many of us can say that with a whole heart, with an upright heart, with a conviction that though you slay me, I will trust you? Because see, the back story of my story that I ain't telling, or I'm not mentioning too much, I was going through what Job went through in my household. Children was acting funny. Finances got a little messed up because I ain't working. I had went 2 months without paying bills because I couldn't function. Don't get me wrong, the money was there, but hey, I couldn't give an account of it. I was going through. It wasn't peaches and creams up in here. I hate to say, and I'm gonna be a little transparent. Me and my daughter got into it. I'm like, do you not see what I'm going through? I just need you to have a little mercy, a little consideration. But then I realized, hey, I'm having a Job experience. So here it is. He told Job's friends, he was like, I need you to take a burnt offering and sacrifice this with Job and have Job pray for you. And this is where the restoration comes in. Because in Job's praying for his friends, he turned Job's captivity. See, so what are we saying here? Sometimes, or not sometimes, we need to pray for our friends. So our captivity will be overturned by the Lord. This is why we ought to pray for one another, love on one another, because we never know what someone's going through. And we can't allow people to speak into our lives and not really understand the fullness of the Lord. Because there's some things that people want to speak to me, and I'll be very honest, I'll turn an ear to, because I know it doesn't align with the word of God. Especially when they say, well, I don't really want to believe in the Bible because the Bible been rewritten this and that and that and that and this. That's fine. You're probably right within yourself. But it is the oldest book on earth. And although it has been rewritten, it doesn't lose the spirit of it. And then, yes, I am particular about what versions of the Bible that I do read. Because one thing that I learned when I took a literature class in college you know, you use the most oldest version because that's the most authentic version. And at one point, I don't know if it still is, but one point, when this was about when I was in school, that the Bible was still the number one selling book on the market. So although, you know, yes, we want to speak or you know, or man has did this with religion or with you know, whatever. But when you have your personal relationship with God, and you not just hear him, but you see him, you know that you can walk after the Spirit. And that's what we should do, walk after the Spirit. But anyway, Job gets restored. And the Lord blesses him with twice as much as he had before. He blesses him with seven more sons who were very successful. He blesses him with 3 more daughters, and they were considered to be the most beautiful daughters of the east, of the land. And even in that, because Job was much more wealthier than what he was, he gave his daughters an inheritance. And you know, even back then they didn't give daughters inheritance. They were no part of it. But Job gave his daughters an inheritance. And my question is this, because you know, and I don't know. I mean, I'm you know, it never indicates what happened to Job's wife. So I can only say that here it is. How did Job, you know, have more children? It must have been with his wife, you know. And that was going to be my question. Does anybody know what happened to Job's wife? But there's no other account of her in the scriptures other than when she has her voice in chapter 1. But he's blessed with more children. And the Bible says that Job grew old, and he was blessed to see his children's children up until the 4th generation. He lived to be 140 years old. So this is the blessing of the Lord, that when you can take a licking and keep on ticking, when you can be the grit of what you're going through, when you can continue to go through and bless the name of the Lord, when you can continue to go through and love on those who are not loving on you, but you can stay faithful to the Lord. You can know that the Lord, that you know, like the old people, you know that you know that you know that the Lord is on your side. So the Job experience, we all got to go through it one way or another. You either coming into a Job experience, you either going through a Job experience, or you even coming out of the Job experience. So, and if you are, I just admonish you to read the book of Job. Read it as in its entirety, because it will give you the strength that you need to go through. And you will know that even though you're going through, even though bad and good is happening to you, that the Lord, he is in control of it all. And I will tell you, in my Job experience, my 47 days of excruciating pain, it wasn't the pain meds that relieved my pain. It wasn't what the doctors were telling me to do that relieved my pain. The Lord placed in my spirit to go to a chiropractor. And I'd never been to one, never thought about going to one, wasn't really, impressed about what I heard about one. But when I walked into the chiropractor's office, I just Googled one. It said, Ms. Dr. Hill. I said, that's where I'm going. Because I called, I said, can you take me today? They said, yes, you can get here within the next hour. So I get into there. At this point, my brother had bought me some crutches, and I'm on crutches. And I walk in and I sit down, and so he's going over a few things with me and asking what happened, how long this had been going on, and yada yada yada. And so he said, okay, I need you to stand up. And as soon as I stood up, the first thing he said, and the only thing he said to me about my condition and what I want to tell you all, he said, Miss Cook, you are out of alignment. And that is our word today, along with the Job experience. You are out of alignment. And this word is for those who have an ear to hear what the Spirit of the Lord is saying. You are out of alignment. And then that very same day, I had to go get my MRI. And so he adjusted me that day. And with that first adjustment was my first release of pain, or relief of pain. Now, don't get me wrong. It was still a 10 out of 10, but it was better than that 20 out of 10. Still wasn't able to bear weight, still wasn't able to walk, but I was better because he had put me back into alignment. We had got to the root of my problem, because what in turn, me being out of alignment, was caused my spine to shift, which causes those discs to shift, which caused the herniated disc, which caused them to bulge, which caused them to sit on that nerve, when in turn caused my muscle to retract and me not being able to bear weight and have excruciating pain. So God is trying to tell you the reason why a lot of you all are having pain in your life, spiritually, mentally, physically, is because you're out of alignment with his word. You're out of alignment with the Spirit, which is in turn making you out of alignment with your life. And that's where your pain is at. So you're going to have to go and get to the root of your pain. Why are you mentally hurting? Why are you physically hurting? Why is this affecting your walk? Why can't you walk? Why are you limping? Why are you lame? Why are you weak? Because you out of alignment. We out of balance. And if you ever hear me talk, when I talk amongst my closest friends, I always talk about living a balanced life. Because even the Bible tells you don't be so heavily minded that you know earthly good. So you got to be in balance. And then I heard someone say, you got to let God be the center, because when he is at the center, he is touching in every aspect of your life. So you got to get back in alignment. Those who are followers of Christ, those who are walking after the Spirit. What is out of alignment? Your perception of the Lord. Maybe some unforgiveness. You haven't repented. You're not in obedience. That's what's out of alignment with your spirit, with your spiritual life. So we got to come to a place where we get ourselves back in alignment, where we're walking with the Lord uprightly. Proverbs 2:7 tells us, he stores up sound wisdom for the upright. He is a shield to those who walk uprightly before him. He stores up wisdom for you. And he is a shield to you who walk uprightly before him. You know, earlier in my walk with the Lord, and this is one time that I learned how gracious and how he protects me and how he will always have my back. And I tell you, I'm a walker. And like I said, this was very scary for me to not know if I was going to be able to walk again. Because when they got those results for the MRI back, early Monday morning, I get a frantic call. This is from the doctor, frantically calling me. Miss Cook, we're going to have to do surgery on you. We're going to need you to make a decision within the week and blah, 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 because you're back injury and this is the window to do it. And we're going to need a decision so we can set you up and blah, blah, blah. And I told her, hold up. Wait a minute. I said, number one, you are not going to rush me into a decision. Number two, you are not doing surgery on me. And I had just left the chiropractor and I had showed him my MRI results. And he said, Miss Cook, he said, if you can give me 4 to 6 weeks, I can get you back to yourself. He was like, but I'm going to need to see you twice a week. And from then on, once a week. And then from wherever. He's like, but I need 4 to 6 weeks. And I told him, fine. So I told the doctor, I said, this is what you can do. I said, you could put the referral in. I will set an appointment to talk with them. I said, but I'm not going to do surgery. I can tell you that off back, and I'm not doing injections. And as soon as I got off the phone with her, I called my chiropractor back. And I said, hey, this is what they said. Because see, he didn't find it to be urgent. And this is a man who deals with